Good morning, Dove Nation. How are you, man? Listen, it's so good to be back. It's always good to be back. Thank you so much for you guys tuning over the airways, everybody tuning on social media. We appreciate you. Thank you to our wonderful sponsors. You know we cannot do this without you guys. Bethel Superstore, Island A to Z, Leslie Trades. Thank you guys so much for keeping us on the air. We appreciate you guys. And again, it's just so good to be back. Again, we're going to continue this conversation. We had a hot conversation last week, man. And I feel like we just didn't have enough time to really talk about everything that we wanted to talk about and to cover everything that we wanted to talk about. We touched a lot about the history and the day, but you know, we want to now talk about what Grand Bahama could be, and not just the talks, but how it could practically happen. Because I feel like in Grand Bahama, we always hear about, oh, you know, Grand Bahama is this, Grand Bahama could be that. But we have not seen a practical plan to really put Grand Bahama back where it was and even beyond. So I have with me again Mr. C. Allen Johnson, like I call him, the critical thinker, the one who thinks beyond, just beyond what you know. He just always has a great perspective, and you know, I just want to welcome him back to the show. I'm super happy to have him. You know, see how are you feeling this morning?
I'm feeling good. You know, good morning, Grand Bahama. Good morning, Bahamas. Yeah, and if some sponsors out there who ain't hit Daquan up yet, please do.
I think they want to keep us on the air after this, right?
There's a lot that, you know, I can pop in and say because, you know, it's a process. You're talking about rebuilding a multi-billion-dollar economy, and I can't give you all of the information in 1 hour.
Right.
And so it has to be a continuing series.
Yes.
So if if 10 of y'all get together, 10 regular people, even without in the business, who sitting around and says, let me skip lunch and drop this off to Daquan so you can...
I like that. So tell them it up.
Right. You know, so you just say, hey, between the 10 of us, we're paying for 1 hour.
I like that.
We want to have something else. Because believe it or not, we're going to have some takeaways, you know, some practical knowledge. Because oftentimes, people always telling you what, you know, you hope this, who, everything, but they never tell you the how. Yeah. And, you know, they say I'm cursed, depending on your view, right. You know, with your memory. And, you know, I can remember, leaving home with my dad and coming home with my mom. And so, I suffer from something, not suffer, but it's autodidactic polymath. And so essentially what it means is a person that's self-learned, self-taught, that almost have an addiction. And polymath means someone that is well-versed in multiple disciplines. Right. You know, and so that's who I am. It's not who I become. Those who know me from high school, from Hawksville High School and school in Miami and university, you know, they know, you know, I don't pretend to know. If I don't know, I remain silent and come back to you. But, you know, Grand Bahama, as you know, Grand Bahama was called a second city. It used to produce, I don't know the exact figures, but it could very much produce as much as 30% of the GDP of the Bahamas. But recently, more so, for 25 years, we've been slowly declining, and more so from Dorian, we are well below, I think, 20% of GDP. We used to be the second pillar of the Bahamas economy, and now Abaco, I think, is ahead of us.
So for those who in Grand Bahama may be listening, and they hear you say, you know, 30% of this GDP, can you just go into what that is?
Right. So GDP is the gross domestic product. That's all of the salaries and profits produced within a country from services and goods. Right. And let's say at the time when we were a $9 billion economy, you could almost say $3 billion of that came from Grand Bahama. Gotcha. And let's say $5 billion of that came from New Providence, and the rest of it came from all the other islands combined.
Gotcha.
And so now we are probably less than one of every $5 that produced in the country. We had a population moving towards 60,000. I'd probably put realistically, because we have to often think counting individuals that's no longer in Grand Bahama, but still claim Grand Bahama as their home, that we probably about 30,000 or 40,000. And so, and then we have the young people that leave Grand Bahama, where they go to New Providence or more so to foreign places. For the whole Bahamas, let me just say, I am one to believe that if we cry about the brain drain,
Right.
that has not happened in my mind. In some people, it may have. Let me tell you why. We have never provided the opportunity for individuals to return home. So I've accepted the notion that they are not left, they're simply parked offshore, waiting for the environment to come back.
I like that.
And so we have to build the environment. So, you know, if you go into the US and I was making $200,000, $250,000, 40% of that was taxes.
Right.
And so unless you knew how to use the tax code, you could basically make $200,000 and literally only take home $120,000.
Right.
And so when you look at the monies they're making, when they come home, they will be able to get compensation. Another thing people often say is that I'm overqualified. Bahamians, stop saying that. There is no such thing as overqualified. However, there's undercompensated.
Yes, I really like that you touch on that, because we always hear, and we hear this government specifically pushing this narrative. You know, all governments do it, but this government specifically is pushing the narrative of this come back home campaign, come back home, we're doing good, the economy is revitalized. And my question is, what are they coming back home to? Because I am all about Bahamians coming back home to contribute to their economy, but why should Bahamians come back if there's nothing for them to come back to?
No, you're absolutely right. So what you hear is you have leadership, as Marcel and Grand Bahama said, things are happening, things in the pipeline, prepare. But nobody can tell you what it is. Nobody can tell you what to prepare for. Then nobody can tell you what you need to be considered prepared. Right? And no one can give you the timeline for which your preparation should encounter. True. And so it's hope. Like I say, hope is a new dope. And so when somebody's having a discussion with you, they should always be able to answer 7 questions, 7 things. Mm-hmm. Who, what, which, when, where, why. Right. And the most important thing, when the people tell you about all these wonderful things, you say how. Yeah. The how is the hardest thing for it to happen. So again, that is who, what, which, when, where, why, and how. Make sure they can answer the how. So when they talk about get ready and Celebration Key is coming and the shipyard is coming and the other investments is coming, have them list the time, the date, and the schedule. Because many of these projects has been going on for a decade, waiting for them to happen. Right. Grand Bahama, just to remain in place, need an infusion. When you factor in inflation and buying power and cost of energy, Grand Bahama need $1 billion. This is not me, this is data. Right. Needs $1 billion a year of new inflow just to practically remain in place. And so if we don't have I'm not talking about $1 billion of investments, I'm talking about $1 billion of GDP. That's money in the business's profit and in people's pocket. Right. Because I can have $1 billion investment and you can only have $100,000 worth of salary in my $1 billion investment. Right. And so the problem with a strategy for Freeport and a strategy for Grand Bahama is there is none. And I would challenge anyone, if you have a strategy, not ideas, okay? Because even a plan without a strategy of execution means nothing. Right. And so when you hear politicians say, we have plans for Grand Bahama, just say, good, just give me the strategy, because the strategy will tell me, answer all of the 7 questions. Most importantly, tell me how. Because you can't even get an investor to talk to you and say, I want to prepare for this, and you can't tell him when, where, or how. Right. You can't. And so we have to stop with the, for lack of a better 2 words, the intellectual masturbation that comes from our leadership, because it just makes us voyeurs, like we get off from their practice. And so, but Grand Bahama, again, I said last week, Grand Bahama, the Bahamas, if considered, and we talk about the 21st century, we talk about AI, we talk about quantum computing, we talk about big data, we're talking about tokenization, we're talking about these transformative type things that's happening in the economy, more so that Trump began in his early incarnation. He began the global war for digital AI, and this is not AI that you know now. Trump started this from his last term. AI, digital, technological, and quantum supremacy. That's what the battle is for right now. Right. And so I'm not going to go into the details of DeepSeek and it not being what it is, because unlike for consumers, from a consumer mindset, and what you see happen to the US stock exchange is because 99.9999% of those people don't know what AI is. They were investing in an idea. But when you look at the technology, the underlying technology, you get to know what is real and what is not. And we as a country have to rely on people that give us expertise on the infrastructure for which these things can be built on, rather than a consumerism of it. And so we have to build it. Going back to said, Grand Bahama, if considered a country, would be the second most digitally prepared country in the world. Better than America, better than Singapore, better than China, better than Japan, better than Canada. And so we just don't seem to know where we are. And what that means? That means if we adopt what is called a digital imperative, and that is where we must embrace digitization, digitalization, datafication, and digital transformation. Digitization is taking something from an analog state into a digital state, but it just sits there. Digitalization is the actual use of digital technology. Datafication is using data and real-time data insights to improve in real time and make adjustments to things that you have, and using comparative to global standards and whatever data continuously enters the market, which AI becomes an assistant. And digital transformation is a mindset, because you are now in the 21st century. January 1st made 24 years of the 21st century. And let me tell you guys, ain't no getting out, only dead, ain't no going back. Right. And so the 21st century is here. And so we must adopt 21st century ideas and strategies to build Grand Bahama. And as I say, Grand Bahama has the potential, and I want those listening, you can take my numbers, I want you to challenge me on this. Grand Bahama has the potential to make 1,000 to 1,500 new millionaires every year. From between 1,000 and 1,500 millionaires every year. And I can tell you, you could do that in one discipline. Hospitality. Hospitality is not dead in Grand Bahama. It is just misunderstood. We have not grown hospitality in 60 years. The hospitality is one of the largest, hospitality and tourism, we use them interchangeably, but they're two different things, is one of the largest growth factors around the world today that's growing countries into the trillions of dollars. We are 400,000 people, a small economy. So that means when you say adding $1,000 or 1,500 people, we're just talking of retaining $1.5 billion of a potential $20 billion economy. So if you have $20 billion flowing through your country, you're telling me that you're incapable of keeping 10% of the money you make in the hands of Bahamians? And something is definitely wrong with that. And the problem with that is that we have relegated ourselves to the labor class. And this is why we have developed a tourism plantation rather than an inclusive ownership and opportunity economy. And that is the conversation we have to have. So we have to have how? The Prime Minister is talking now about being able to, yesterday they talked about being able to lean the intangible, something I've been advocating for a decade. I still don't think that it goes far enough. But what happens is the current administration is passing laws that is built around the old rather than something called disruptive innovation. Because you cannot adopt an old ideology and digitize it. When it digitizes, it becomes new. And so when you try to wrap around what the bank is and whatever it is, then you have nothing but anchored yourself. So you have a concept of our leadership. Current leadership up to date seem to be cemented in the past and deniers of the future. And that's why we need to find a mindset. And so I don't want, please, people, don't come with the argument, but young. If you want to go and look at the 3 1,000 billionaires in North America, and don't confuse the 5 or 6 of them, or even 10 of them, that happen to make it under 30. Go look when they made their wealth. Even the Bible puts a maturity for men at 40. And so, because they are the exception, they are not the rule. And so, for those, when people tell you that you could make it, look, that you could sit in the garage, they tell you Zuckerberg made it in the garage, Bezos made it in the garage, and all of them. And I say, you go sit in the garage, and you have a better chance of becoming a car than a billionaire. Because sitting in a garage, it's not the success formula. It just happens to be where they started.
Right.
And so when you use that expression is, start where you are. It just happened to be in the garage.
Right.
And so this is what we have to do, and we have to have conversation. And you and I have been having these conversations, right? And this is why you told me, hey, bring it to the people.
Yeah.
And he said, and I just want people to understand is that he's listening, not because he's learning, but because he heard it before. Okay? But what happens is, we have to ask ourselves, what are the economic models? And those of you, I mean, I just made a note, right? We did the 30 different economic models mentioned in the last 10 years. Here they are. Digital economy, conceptual economy, knowledge economy, aquamarine economy. I want you to pay attention to that when I'm coming back to that. Carbon economy, green economy, blue economy, ocean economy, orange economy, knowledge-based economy, data economy, platform economy, shared economy, silver economy, circular economy, climate economy, crypto economy, AI economy, technology economy, passion economy, gig economy, blockchain economy, energy economy, and tokenization economy. Believe it or not, I can show you in the media where every single one of these was mentioned in the last 10 years by our leaders.
And how much of them happen?
None. Because these are talking points. And we talk about the orange and the creative economy, but no one can tell you, understand that every single one of these economy has about a dozen disciplines under each. And so when you start talking about these 30 economies or so that they mention, you go, why can we, or why haven't we, if they were capable of doing it, put at least 1,000 people in each of those? So let's use a quick sidebar here. The AI economy has become mainstream, not for those of us who've been with it for 20, 30 years. But, and you will understand now, like for those who in the music business, entertainment, understand catalogs and other things. And that's what happens. People will begin to experience, the Michael Jackson catalog or the Beatles catalog, those will be fed into AI. And they will then tell AI to create songs indistinguishable from the Beatles, indistinguishable from Michael Jackson. So you will begin to hear music and begin to watch movies and videos of artisans who have been dead for decades. But guess what? That same technology is not exclusively for artisans that have been dead or who have these catalogs. It's for regular Bahamian people who can learn to feed from those billions of points already in the marketplace to enhance what it is that you're doing.
And how let me ask you, so how can the everyday Bahamian tap into that market?
What happens is, you have individuals like me, I'm not the only person, but you have individuals like me that is going to begin to make themselves available 2 days away from now. I committed myself to February 1st to begin to engage the public and to begin to have workshops and just conversation in churches and community and schools. So if you need me to come speak to a school or to a church group or something like that, I'm going to make myself available. But it is understanding what AI is. 99.9% of the people I've met in the Bahamas who told me they use AI, they're using it as an advanced Google search. It's not what AI is. Prompting, in the same way you and I having a conversation, is how you have a conversation with AI. So you just can't say, how do I build a new song? You have to have a conversation. I sing in the genre of Michael Jackson, my key range is such and such, these are the instrumental I like. You could even feed some of the songs you've done before, some of the things you've done before, and you begin to have a conversation with AI, so it begins to get to know you. And when it begins to be able to duplicate you, or you could have a conversation with it, you then prompt it to regenerate you, not randomly create something for you. And so it's the same thing when you're asking for information, garbage in, garbage out.
Right.
And so we have to learn and be taught to speak to clarity to AI to ask questions. And so I've seen leaders just simply say, what is a good idea to develop on Grand Bahama? But they have not fed in the demographics of Grand Bahama. So it says, based on the information on the internet, this is what you can do in Grand Bahama. But if you, yeah, and then they repeat it. But if you actually punch in the demographics, and like some people ask the question is probably a couple of sentences. My prompting into AI actually run a couple of pages. And so, and that's what because I'm providing all of the information, and sometimes I make sure I direct it to the data that I needed to cull from, to provide me the best information, and then it gives me a thesis, and sometimes I tell AI, now read it to me, and I may be sitting there listening to them read for an hour to an hour and a half the answer it gave me.
So let me ask you something to see, Alan, right? Because that's a very important point. It brings me to this. So Trump's now into his new term, right? He just got the inauguration just passed. They're introducing this department called the Department of Government Efficiency, where I think Musk is going to run, where they're going to try to find ways to cut down costs to try to get this $2 trillion down, right? So I want to ask you this. We've just seen recently where this current administration have currently spent almost $250 million in consultancy.
Right.
So they've spent, I think it was about $220 million
more like 230-something million, right?
On seeking advice is what I'll call it, right? And I think last year alone was $70 million in paying people to give them information that's supposed to give a return on that investment. So I want to ask, right? Have you seen, or do you think that 200 million figure, do you think you've seen the fruits of that?
No. Well, here's what I would say. I would love for the government to provide me with every piece of advice that they have received since September 16, so I could feed it into an AI client and ask it to grade it on the scale of
1 to garbage?
Yeah, of garbage to 10. Right. And then, see, because what happens is you can put an opinion into one of the AI client and ask it for an evaluation as to its effectiveness based on the points that's available inside of AI. Again, you put the details of what the advice you sought. Of course, the Prime Minister may have said, I need you all to figure something. But you put in the complete details of what you're trying to achieve. And this particular person who gave you advice, you put what their advice has been to you so far. I assume it's not going to be verbal. And you put it in there and you ask for an evaluation. You can even ask them, what would you pay on a global standard, what would you have paid for this advice? And so we can ask them. And you ask for Dodge. Believe me, Grok, right, is the AI that Elon Musk is using. Unlike us, the data is not available. Before that election was finished, he had already ran all of the available data on all of the government ministries through it. This is why, do you really believe that on day one he said, I'm going to be able to get 2,000 over here and this? He wasn't guessing. He had the numbers in the front of it and the recommendations of how the efficiency. And then you say, a decision I make here as a leader of the country, how is that this decision I'm about to make, how does it affect all of the other aspects of my economy? So you don't have to guess. And this is why, but this happened before, because AI that we know about is still ANI, is artificial narrow intelligence. For those of us who are in the AI discipline, we know that we have yet to achieve artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is where something exists independent of you, and it need not be connected to anything else, and it gets up when you get up in the morning. When you walk, artificial intelligence says, based on how you're feeling, and they say, see, Alan, based on how you're feeling and what you ate yesterday and the time you spent, and I know you normally have coffee, and this is what I'm recommending for you instead for your optimized health. Right now, what we call AI is simply prompting. It's more like augmented intelligence for AI. And that's why it's called artificial narrow intelligence. And it's becoming broader because you've always been using artificial narrow intelligence when you've been using Google. In fact, you've been training it when you have the capture and you have the movies and match the pictures. You've been training AI all along. And so, you only don't need a whole lot of people. You just need one person that knows what to do. And then they will hire someone else. So, like I say today, if I was to chip my tooth, I won't try to be a dentist. I'll go buy me a dentist. And that's what we have to learn to do in leadership rather than feeding the intelligence that is needed. And so when you look at Elon Musk, he's running multiple multi-billion-dollar companies with hundreds of thousands of employees and moving parts. He's not pretending to run that whole company himself. But we got leadership in this country who wants to run a whole ministry with a couple hundred, a couple thousand people with all kind of different disciplines. And that has been our weakness, is the arrogance of ignorance leading to paralysis of analysis.
Wow, I love that line. I love that line. And, this is we hear this conversation often, right? And my opinion is this, and this is how I feel. I feel like consultancy is their new modern way of corruption. What I mean when I said it is, back in the day, we know of old politicians who, you just give your family member a contract and, you'll say, hey,
title.
Yeah, a title. You say, hey, listen, get my business license. And listen, once we get things, the motion, the budget come out, we can allocate this amount. You get a contractor's license. I can give you this contract for 10 million. The work only costs 2. The 8, 3 for you. 5 for me. Right. And that was the old way. And I feel now that, behemoths kind of get more hip to that, and it's, it's a little bit more blatant. People are paying attention a little bit more. So I feel that they say, okay, let's outsmart them. Let's just hire a bunch of people who are our cronies or our supporters. Let's just hire a bunch of people and let's give them a title and say that, they're going to provide us advice in this area because there's no way to kind of track it. See, I say that because I'm all about empowering Bahamians, right? But I'm all about empowering deserving Bahamians. See, we have a crime crisis. You and I could both agree to that, right? And we have we have a Ministry of National Security that's supposed to be aiding this crisis and coming up with solutions, practical solutions to get crime down. Yeah, you can't stop someone from committing an offense, but you can put measures in place that would deter people from doing it. Right. And then we have now consultants, and I'll use this one as an example, Rodney Monka.
Yes.
He is a consultant in the Ministry of National Security, and I'm trying to figure out.
He has his own office.
He has his own office, and he's getting a nice salary and a nice paycheck. So I want to literally see the reports and the advice that Mr. Monka has provided. I want to see what they have put in and I want to see the practical plan that they have gave us. Because if you was a consultant, that means that you have spent some time mastering this particular...
We have paid them almost, when you look at the fees and stuff, we have paid 2 or 3 individuals almost $300,000
wow.
in efforts
wow.
and the expense to carry them. And the question you say is, what have we gotten?
Right.
And this is why you see individuals avoid digitalization and notification, because digitalization brings about accountability.
Yes.
In the same way now that we have these so-called datification allows you to verify and authenticate in real time, are you getting value for money?
Wow.
And so, but the thing about it is that in the new economy, which is the knowledge economy, the knowledge-based economy, your thoughts is the most valuable thing in the world. And let me just talk to some people, right?
Right.
I want you to, whoever told you that it takes money to make money, they are an idiot. Okay? And let me tell you why. If you have $1,000 and have $1,000, you put it together and put it in a jar, and we come back in 10 years, guess what we have? Still $2,000 in the jar.
Right.
It is only when you put that $1,000 with an idea
Yeah.
that money multiplies. So ideas are the multipliers of money. And so they're the people who have made money knows that they were built using ideas. They're looking for new ideas to pair their money with. But it can't be anything. It has to be an executable idea. It has to be able to explain the hows. And so when you look for an investor, and let's use, for instance, we want to use the bed and breakfast as an example, short-term vacation rental. Technically, it's only 3 questions you have to answer. Is the asset for which I'm having an investor, and I want you to pay attention to these 2 things. I'm getting a loan for, or an investor is going to put the monies with me. Is it the value going to be equal to or greater than the amount of monies that's going to be extended to me? And this could also include intellectual property. Now, intellectual property have value, but I'm coming to that in another story. And so the question is, so I say, good, I need $1 million to build me a 6-plex bed and breakfast. I build it for $1 million, but the appraised value will be about 1.2 to 1.5 million. So yes, I answered the first question. It will be equal to the next question. Is the income from that property equal to or greater than the servicing of the loan and the expenses for running the property? That's the second question you have to answer. And the third question you have to answer is there an exit plan for the investor or for the bank? Now, that's very important. Let me explain to you, like with the bank. You have a 15-year loan. In the beginning of the loan, let's say you have $1 million loan. You're paying $10,000 a month. In the middle of, so that first month you made that $10,000, probably $100, $25 goes towards the principal.
Right.
And so when you get around year 7, you're beginning to pay on the
Principal.
on the principal.
Yep.
So if you have an exit plan for the bank, who say, I done made all the money, now I gotta sit here for this little small change.
Right.
If you have an exit plan, the bank will be able to read that and say, you know what, I'm gonna give him the 15-year loan because it's manageable, but I know that he's gonna cash out in less time. But I would have made the bulk of my money and I could find a fresh victim to feed this money into. The investor who stays with you, and the difference between an investor and the bank is this: the banks are, or loans are prostitute pimp relationships, because the day you get the $1 million, 30 days later the $10,000 a month is due, whether you make a profit or not.
Yeah.
And so when you take 3 years to build a business, you already gave them back $300,000. So this is why you want to put yourself in a position that people can invest in you and your ideas, because they don't want monthly payments. They want value to be built over a particular amount of time. But the exit plan is that if something was to come up or the investor sees a better opportunity, do you have a means for the investor to exit? And that's where I say, do you have an exit plan? Because nobody want to be married to you forever. And so an exit plan could be something as simple as replacing them. You go and buy shares right now from Cable Bahamas. You put $5,000. And 3 years later, you need your money. You cannot go back to Cable Bahamas and get your money. But Cable Bahamas has built a value that you wouldn't have a problem selling those shares to someone else. And that is what you have to build. So you don't ever have to give the money back, but you have to be in a position that your company or whatever it is you're developing is strong enough that the person who's invested in you can get somebody else to assume their position. And that's what you want. And that's where, and so what happens is, you hear the government is talking about banking.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, there is not a banking problem in the Bahamas. There is a problem with knowledge of the banking thing. We're not into fintech. There's no boundaries. What the banking industry in the Bahamas have is people who are locked into a cave, and the bank have convinced them that going up out of the cave into the sunlight will cause blindness. And so they have you in the cave as a captive. And so the problem is that in fintech and tokenization, if you wanted to buy a house right now, you could put together a plan right now to say find 300 people to send you $1,000 to go build your house. You just have to put together the plan to explain to them how you will pay the 300 people over a period of time or replace them. If you want to build a business plan, for instance, I'm working on, and I'm trying not to use this as an ad right here, but I have a platform that I'm going to be discussing in full details and maybe sponsor the show, where if you come to me, and I spoke to this last week, I could almost guarantee you 99% funding, financing on a bed and breakfast, on a home, and everything else. 95% of Bahamians will never be able to own a home in the system that we probably have. You need to make, if you want to buy a $200,000 government home, that payment is $2,000 a month, and it may not necessarily include your life insurance and home insurance. But let's just use the $2,000 a month, meaning that you have to make 3 times that income, that's $6,000 a month. So that means to qualify legitimately for a government home, you must make $72,000 a year for a $200,000 house. How many of you know about a $200,000 house around town? So that means that if 80 to 90% of Bahamians do not make $72,000, or if you say you want $3,000 or a $300,000 house, then you need to make $108,000 per year. But in Grand Bahama right now, we have a need for 14,500 keys, and that is what we call for bed and breakfast, hotel rooms or whatever, for us to be an actual viable hospitality destination. So why are we sitting around waiting for someone to come in here and build a 1,500 room hotel when we could simply have individuals, we could have 750 individuals go build duplexes, actually triplexes, right? They could go build triplexes and meet, and we could have those 1,500 rooms by 750 people. And I say, why build triplexes? Chances are you want to own a bed and breakfast, but you don't even own a home. So if you came to me, here's what I would do. I would use the Hotel Encouragement Act, and I'll build you your 2,000 square foot house, but the second and third unit, they will only be 600 square feet. Why? Because you'll be using those as short-term vacation rentals or bed and breakfast, and you do not need this place as if these people come in to rent from you forever. They come in for 1 week. And so they need a bedroom, a living room, someplace, a kitchenette, and whatever. And so, and a 1 bedroom at 600 square feet is even a big place. And so essentially though, you now have this 2-plex next to you in the house you live in, and the house don't even have to be in the same location. But now you're getting $1,000 to $1,500 per week. And so if you borrow sufficiently to move in a different class of bed and breakfast, so that you could get the $1,500 a week or the $2,500 a week. So let's use the $1,500 a week. You're now getting $3,000 a week for your duplex, for the 2 units you have, and that's 3,000 times 52, 156,000 per year. And let's say you borrowed $600,000 for that complex. So you're paying. Let's put it down. And I said you're making 156,000, and that's 6,000 times 72. Let's put it $80,000. So the 600,000 you bought, or the $700,000 you bought, could pay for your house and the duplex you have, and maintaining it. And the reason why we want to kind of concentrate at first for short-term vacation rentals, we don't want to move you into the daily bed and breakfast because they become tedious. That means that you may have to service 300 people per year. But if you look for and you have 2 people, now they tell you 700,000 people are going to come to the island. And I'm going to say, Daquan, don't let them brainwash you into the 700,000. Stand at the airport and says, where's my 2 people per week? Because that's what I need to make my $150,000. Don't give me the story about 500,000, 8 million, 9 people. Show me where my 100 people per year is, and I'll be okay. And so that's what you look for. But you build a place in such a quality they will tell other people. But even if you meet the hotel average of 68% or 60%, you will still meet 100% of your mortgage And the reason I say I use these higher prices because you're going to build homes that is net zero, so you don't pay much of a light bill and everything else. Then, if you want to, you could just put an EV in the front of it and get another $300 a week or whatever on each unit. And so, because they're not going to walk where they're going, or we can leave that for somebody else that goes on. But as we begin to reach critical mass of doing this, and so simultaneously, we have to have a committee, a hospitality committee that builds a destination on paper, an executable destination that will allow people to plan even for restaurants or tours or other things that's associated with the destination. And that's just for the hospitality and tourism, because we have never had ownership of the plantation. And so we have to stop looking for other people to come build fires so we can warm ourselves. We got enough wood intelligence to build our own fire. But another point on Grand Bahama, very simple. Every single year, the U.S. embassies in the region turn down tens of thousands of people for going into the U.S. for school education. We are at an age right now, every university in America could be attended from the Caribbean. The problem is many of those Caribbean countries, whether it be Haiti, Jamaica, do not have the digital infrastructure or potential that we have. And so now we can have individuals build small units, apartments, whatever, 400 square feet for the person who just want a little efficiency because they only come in to attend school because they want access to our digital infrastructure. And so if you go, say, to the University of Miami and you have 40 students here in Freeport attending, say, Florida Memorial University that I attended, if you have 40 students studying, say, business, they will set up for those students to attend virtually, and when certain exams and things has to happen, they'll send the teachers here for the exam. But at the same time, we have 10,000 students attending school someplace else, but they're consuming housing, food, and transportation while in the Bahamas. We're seeing this being done right now at VAMU. And so the question then is, why can't we get those thousands of individuals for an education destination and make arrangements with these type of colleges and universities for these same students? The data is available from the embassy. Wow. That's right there. And let us own the economy. And so, and you have so many different things. You have the medical tourism, you have sports tourism, you have religious tourism, we have wellness tourism, health, medical. We have places where individuals will kill to retire in the Bahamas. We just need to have a conversation in context of the 21st century and what is available now. The airport, for $150,000, any person who is in an airport building thing will tell you, there will be, ladies and gentlemen, let me give you some bad news. Unless the government can show 15,000 people per week going through that airport, it will not become financially feasible. It will become a burden on government, and you will not get somebody else to accept to build the airport and run a deficit until we decide how we're going to get 15,000 people from here. So it has to happen simultaneously. Now let's go just quickly on the hotel. The hotel, after the hurricane, had a value of $50,000. We paid $60,000 for the hotel, and they kept the insurance money and some other different things. That hotel has sat stagnant, being hit by hurricanes before Dorian came. Dorian was the second or third time the hurricane hit that. And so you have a place that memories had already been designated as a potential for demolition. And now you have the middle hotel that's been sitting there, mold, mildew, or whatever. And then we have the lighthouse point. And you have to ask yourself, why don't people come? Because if I was a tour operator and I have the potential of sending someone to a place that they could get sick from mold and mildew and they have the potential to sue me, I wouldn't send them to you. Yep. And so, and this is why we have to be honest. So we are trying to get a foreigner to come into the Bahamas to pay us hundreds of millions of dollars and build our dream. And that's where we have a problem. And we as people, give me 30 more seconds. What if 1,000 of us on Freeport would take the opportunity for this concept called tokenization, and each one of us is given a designation to raise a certain amount of money, whether it be each one of us find 100 people to invest $5,000. Each one of us will find 100 people, but it's a master plan, but we'll own a fraction of it. And we could tokenize the hotel, and we could raise the $500 million to build something new there. But you have to believe in us. You have to believe that if we proper prior preparation prevents our piss poor performances, that we could each build together a business plan, that we could tokenize a property going there. For me, my idea of the hotel was to tear it down and build a data center, because now, if you look in the papers and everything, we are a near shore destination. Artificial intelligence for what is called data privacy and data sovereignty, which the Bahamas offers, individuals will begin to accumulate and build data around the Caribbean and South America. We are 60 miles off. In fact, the NAP Centers of America, which is the 10th largest data center in the world, was destined for the Bahamas in the 90s, but we could not get our laws in place. And so that same concept of data center, it would have cost hundreds of millions of dollars to run the technology from one location to Grand Bahama. You can now do it for less than 60 million. And so when you build a data center on Grand Bahama, the data center needs to bring its own energy generation, and it has to bring redundancy. So I have a data center that I need 75 megawatts. Guess what I have to build? I have to build 150 megawatts. For me, I wouldn't let that sit there, the redundancy sit there. I would generate electricity and sell it to you for 10 to 15 cents just to recover my money, with the understanding that if my other plant go down, you're going to be without electricity for a couple of hours, and you experience that anyway. And so would you expect that one day I might shut you off for 24 hours, in exchange I'll let you pay 10 cents a kilowatt, which instead of the almost 50 cents you're paying now? And so these are not fantasies. These are doable, but when you go to engage individuals in those marketplaces, you have to have the intellectual capital to engage them. And so you can't go there, like you say, you can't go to a guy that speaks fluent Italian and pretend that you speak in Italian. And he may listen to you and show you some respect because you're a leader, an MP or a minister from the Bahamas, and he doesn't tell you that you're talking crap. He just listens to you and smile, and then when he leaves, he says to his friend, "You won't believe who came to talk to me."
See, I love that, Yellen, and what I like is, with the ideas you provide, the practical plan on how it could actually happen. And I find that interesting because I feel like a lot of times, and like we spoke about today before we wrap up, I feel like what we experience as Bahamians, we experience where we hear the magnificent ideas, we hear about what's going to happen, what could happen, and I think that what happens is leadership announces things without even having a meeting on how it's going to happen.
Yeah, nothing for me without me.
Literally. So, and I'll give a practical example, right, of that. And you could probably elaborate on this, right? We've seen recently where, and oftentimes we've seen in this past administration where I feel like the Prime Minister is more convinced on keeping up an image of doing something rather than doing something, because every time that there's an issue that raises just enough attention, he says something on it, but with no plan. So recently we've seen where the Prime Minister was talking about the cost of living, and he mixed up the standard and the actual cost, and that was a whole big thing. But a part of after that, he made a statement where he said that they're going to tackle the cost of living by giving Bahamians that option of getting goods for cheaper costs, right?
Fancy.
So this is the interesting part for me, right? This is the interesting part for me. He said that how they're going to do that is they're looking at ways where they're going to cut out the middleman,
right,
for the retailers to pass down that cost savings of us as the consumers. So I then was thinking, and I was like, okay, so what exactly is he saying there? Because I know businesses right here in Grand Bahama who don't have a middleman. They go directly to who produces their product and they buy it. So I'm trying to figure out who is the Prime Minister speaking of when he said this middleman. I also saw where Rupert Roberts came out and said he is also confused because he buys it, he purchases his stuff from the manufacturers. So who is this middleman that the Prime Minister is talking about?
I can tell you who he's speaking to.
Yeah, please do.
He's speaking to the ignorant. And,
Yeah, because I'm serious.
And ignorance can be cured. Let me explain something.
Yeah.
If I am in the state of Florida,
Right.
let's use chicken as an example,
Mm-hmm.
and I go to Brazil, and I say to them, I want 10 million pounds of chicken.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll tell me, your chicken, 10 million pounds of chicken, it is 25 cents a pound.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to Brazil to the same manufacturer and tell them that you want 100,000 pounds because you're trying to buy for your market of scale, they're going to tell you it's 79 cents.
Right.
So technically, you could come to me in America and buy the same Brazilian chicken for 50 cents, because I'm buying it for 25 cents, and I sell it to you in Miami for 50 cents, then you going to Brazil yourself and buying it for 79 cents because you can't buy at scale. It does, and so we do not have economy of scale. And so this concept of buying wholesale directly from the manufacturer is a fantasy. It is. It tells me the person doesn't understand the rudimental aspect of international trade. And so you're saying, and this is why they put the caveat that you may have to buy some other brand. So we'll find the guy under the tree that makes the tennis shoes rather than your regular Nike.
Right.
And we'll say still shoes. And you could buy that now for less. And so what we have to do is we have to look at methods of growing the economy. We have not had an economy that has grown faster. Personal economies, individual personal economies have grown faster than inflation. And so the Bahamian dollar, by the way, it's not a dollar, it's an exchange note. And say, bring me one of these and I'll give you one of that, American dollar. And so our buying, so it's always going to be worth American dollar. So if the American dollar buying power is less, you can only assume ours is even more because we import inflation. The Bahamas does not produce 95 or 99% of what we consume. So that means we import inflation.
Yep.
We cannot do anything about what we import. What we can do, however, is embrace these new economic models to do something. Let's use an example. If we were to make a decision that we want to have, and I said we could have some millionaires, that we find 1,500 individuals who want to enter the bed and breakfast with 4 units each, right? That gives us 6,000 units we could put into place. And I ask people to look up tokenization, and we can have a whole show on this one day. You need the $1 million to build the 6 units. You need to sit down and I need to develop a business plan for you to convince 1,000 people to give you $1,000, or 100 people to give you 10,000, or 200 people to give you 5,000. And what is going to make them do that? Your business plan. We'll show them this is what is going to be built, this is what is going to be built, how it's going to be built, and this is my revenue stream. And you will show them that you're in a jurisdiction that anticipates more for Grand Bahama. We won't even look at the 9 million people that comes there. We will show them where we will bring 15,000 people per week that is needed for the airport to be what it is, collectively. So they begin to look at a destination plan. And so those individuals who are sitting in banks right now getting 6%, getting a fraction of 1% and even 0%, will say, I could risk $1,000 with that. And so you're talking about addressing millions of dollars. It's a form of crowdfunding, tokenization. And tokenization allows you to basically find 1,000 people to build your bed and breakfast. And there's steps and I already spoke to my attorney, and he said he's ready I told him that he's willing to sit down and even finance the legal structure over 1 year that is needed. So I'm just as an example, I'm not saying he's going to charge this. Let's say he charges $3,000 for your legal structure. He'll let you pay $250 a month or $300 a month towards billing it, while at the same time you're selling your business plan. And so this is what we need. And so For those individuals who are at home, just another plug, shameless plug.
Right.
My wife and I develop a rent-to-own program. Very simple. We sit down with you, make a determination of what you could afford, and when you can't, we make a plan to help develop a business plan for you. And then we will arrange for you to get your house. Let's say you want a $300,000 house, no money down, or $3,000 down. You move into the house, and we'll get you to the point where you want while the house is being built. We already have a plan. And when you move into the house, you pay the exact same thing as your mortgage. You know how they say rent to own, you pay more and they give you some back? You live in the house for up to 5 years, and every year we will credit you 2%. So that means within 5 years, you will have 10% of the value of the house, allowing you to go and qualify for 5% down and have all the closing costs by paying the exact same rent. And when you're paying the exact same rent as the mortgage, we have a credit bureau. It shows that you have demonstrated over those 60 months or 2 years or 3 years of use that you could meet that rate, you have the ability to pay. So transitioning from that, but even if it doesn't happen, you could still have that property tokenized. And so you have a $300,000 property, I get 600 people, that gives you 1 token each. And so now you have 600 tokens for $500, and every time you make $600, you're buying a token away from the person who's holding it, and you're buying a token. And when you don't put all your tokens back, you own your house. And technology has disrupted banking. And so what do you need to do? With all due respect, I love banks, and I know they're an integral part, but it's not my fault that they have not adopted and adapted for innovation. And so we as Bahamians can use the tools, and nothing in the Bahamas. Understand, guys, you're talking about currency control. Currency control is control money going out, not money coming in. Don't mix the two. So you could have $1 million coming in. You just need to have a strategy for exit of money all at once. But if you own the building and you're collecting this sixplex of $1,500 a week, $9,000 a week, 458, whatever, 70,000, and you're paying $10,000 a month, $120,000 a month, and all these different things, whatever it is, even if you're paying $20,000 a month, you're making $200,000 a year. If you have 60% of the income, that means you'll only pay the mortgage and make $100,000 a year. This is simple math. The key then is how do you present this to the global marketplace to find those 1,000 people or 500 people that send you $2,000. And that is where Daquan, myself, and other like-minded individuals want to create the environment where even when we're having a talk today, that you can ask questions. And we will move into the community. Daquan has already designated me to come to West Grand, Bahama, and Bimini. And, I want Freeport because, if Freeport, let me tell you why. See, we're going to fix Freeport. We're going to fix the Grand Bahama Port Authority. And if there's ever be the first mayor of Freeport, I'm going to tell you right now, I won't be it.
Oh man, see y'all. Listen, man, it is oh man, and the times go by so quickly. It is always a pleasure. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. It was such an interesting
Just let me tell
show
people,
today.
I can be reached at 825-9700. I'm on all the social media platforms, 825-9700. Send me a WhatsApp so I don't have to try to answer each of you. I can answer you at my convenience. And my business line is 822-3100. 822-3100 and 825-9700. And then for all of you guys who want to sponsor it, we can find out right now what is our cost. And we can find 10 or 20 of y'all that can bring us $20 each. And you can say, hey, we want to be educated, we want to be informed. And then you could put $21 if you want us to have lunch.
Man, listen, I love it. See y'all tomorrow. Listen, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure. It has been a pleasure having you here. The show was so good today. I look forward to having you again. Same time, same place. Listen, Dove Nation, appreciate you guys' support, all the listening audience, those on the airways, those on social media. Thank you so much for
Give me a number. Call Daquan for the money.
Call Dove.
Call Dove. What's Dove number?
Two our sponsors, Island A to Z, Bethel Superstore, Leslie Trades. Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much for having us on the air. We appreciate you. See you again, same time next week on Dove.